Jake, Jake showed up. He brought over here into slavery. With Babylon the Great was the final captivity. Us being brought over here, where the northern tribes were already here. Okay, and now that started the process of Judah and Ephraim being brought back together. Primarily, that would happen in Babylon the Great, and that's what you see happen with all. Oh, I would do a new thing. Now, right.
And they're reading from right now, the brother, whoever's reading from Second Thessalonians, second chapter. We went through that Saturday, and then I did a complete breakdown. I believe it was the last video I did yesterday, but I guess I put up more than one video. You don't even remember, but I just came on this page, started listening, maybe 10 minutes in, and 43 minutes they've been teaching. Romans say 144, and they were mentioning the charagma, and that's all pretty much. Anytime we sit down and we're talking about prophecy, the charagma is going to always come up. And you might say, well, y'all always talking about the same thing, the charagma, because this is a prophecy is coming to pass. And you know what I'm gonna do? Let me bring it back some, because they're speaking, they're hitting precepts that we were discussing. They're pretty much going into the same. All these prophetic, all these prophetic scriptures, they all lead down to this last few major prophecies. And before this place could be destroyed, this one prophecy has to come to pass, which you have other major Israelite groups, IUIC and ISUPK. Well, Shakari teaches it, but IUIC and ISUPK, they're two of the big major groups, along with GMS, Shakari, and others. And they're not talking about it. And matter of fact, not only are they not talking about it, they're talking against it. They're talking against it. We wouldn't be talking about this for X amount of years, and all of a sudden nobody figures out, okay, this is Elder Yashawamba. No, I don't know, man. I'm sorry, I just can't see it. Or any of these men here. There's nobody in any of the GMS camps that's bucking up against the prophecies that we teach. And that includes the charagma. Because you know what? If any of y'all did come up, anybody that in GMS said, well, I don't see it, Tahar, I don't see it, elders or apostles or whatever, or bishops or whatever, we're gonna kind of be looking at you sideways. All right? And then we're gonna see what else, where else is your mind going? Because if you can't see this, either one or two things, if you can't see this, you either the Most High blinded you, therefore that means you may not be the elect unless the Most High finally wake you up, or you then took the bag. You know exactly what we're talking about with this major prophecy is coming to pass, but they then pulled you to the side and said, look, you got to teach against it, but you're gonna get goodies. All right. So what I did was let me bring it back.
You just wait till this devil gets down in 2023 and going forward.
know this was gonna. This is the reason why I said let me put let me record this, screen record this. You heard what he just said. He said 2023, right? Because we're thinking, we were together. Was me, it was myself and the other two apostles and the bishop Sakaran, and I said it, and they kind of like, agree with me. I said, look, man, I said this shit is like getting played out, man. I said the Most High got to do something in 2023, and they all said, yeah, Most High got to do something in 2023. We know he's not going to do anything major in 2022 because we have what? It's the 12th. So we're talking about what? 22, 30. We have less than 3 weeks before the year 2023. So this is why he said, the elder right here on the video, Yashawamba, this is why he said what he said. And when I clicked it back, I didn't know it was going to jump on that, but that's what he said and what they were talking about. I said, you know what? Let me screen record this. So I pulled it back a little bit more.
Saying that you guys got the monopoly on everything. And you responding the way they were responding, continue anybody for using a brain to think. Comes to the conclusion that you really want to. That's being condemned. Yeah. Again, they say the Constitution is getting ready to be. It already is. But that's getting ready to be hit. It's getting ready to be a new technological Bill of Rights. You just wait till this devil gets down in 2023 and going forward.
You heard what he said. You just wait till the devil gets down in 2023. Because the devil deals with dates and times. That's a part of an agenda. Agenda deals with a time. You have an agenda to do this thing, and you put a time limit on it. You say, well, in 10 years, we'll do this. Everything they do is based upon time to fulfill an agenda. And if everything goes well, they have a point where they said, okay, we reached our goal, the agenda. When they built the One World Tower that replaced the twin towers, their plan was, because I watched it, I checked it out when they were building it up and coming down to the ending of it, and their plan was, the building is 1,776 feet tall, and they had a big antenna, so they timed it. It was around, it wasn't May, it was before May, the month before May is April. So it was around April, they were almost finished with the building. It was all in the news. And they said that we want to complete the building come May 1st or come the beginning of May. So, me being, us knowing, how the other side, that the demonic side work, we say, yeah, they're trying to time it for 1776. Not 1776 July, but May of 1776. Because there's something that happened. There was a birth of something, an idea, and that took place May of 1776. So, that has nothing to do with the U.S. It's more of a global thing. So everything that they did, look, we were down there over the weekend. We went to get some food down there after the camp. We drove down into Manhattan. Not all the way down, but we drove down. But you can see the skyline of Manhattan. And I remember saying, look at that building right there. Look at it. It's a straight up obelisk. If you go to Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, you're going to see most of the newer buildings. I would go to say, not most, all of them, but most of them, they all have the same design. They all are obelisks. There's a building down not too far from walking distance from the old World Trade Centers. I forget the name of the building, but it's the name of a company. If I said the name of the company, you know what I'm talking about. And I believe it had America to do with it. I think it's the American Express building, if I'm not mistaken. But it's an Obelix. You know, one day we'll go down there with the camera and we'll do a little video showing how the design of these buildings are. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them are Obelixes. And there's a reason for that. So let's listen to some more.
Okay, it's going to be a ride. Okay, let no man deceive you by any means, that they should not come with the first. And that's man of sin be revealed, son of perdition. Right, and the falling away was 70 AD. 70 AD, we eventually went into the interior of Africa. We did great things in Africa. We started to kept some of the customs, but eventually we were put primarily on the West Coast. We brought right on the coast with slavery. Slave trade, yeah, traded Hamites, Ishmael, Jake, in particular, Jake selling out Hilton too.
Yeah, Jake was a part of the slave trade too. They sold their own people into slavery. There's this one king during not before the wider kingdom, which is Judah. You had a fort called Fort Judah, and then you had the Dahomey kingdom, which they featured in the movie The Woman King, which I didn't see that movie. But the kingdom before the Dahomey kingdom was a wider kingdom, or the kingdom of Judah. And there was a king that was selling his own people, which were Israelites, to the so-called white man along with the Arabs. And he was even selling some of his wives. So it was, Ham took part of it, but Jake was a part of it too. Because Jake is just wicked, you know? Jake is just goddamn wicked. You think Shaq wouldn't sell you out if he had the opportunity to put you in slavery? You think he wouldn't do that? He's for Esau, man. Charles Barkley and many others. These Jake politicians, they don't give a damn about Jake. They're only concerned about themselves. So they'll sell you out in a minute.
Okay. You brought over here and just looking at it. With Babylon the Great is the final captivity. Us being brought over here. Right, the northern tribes are already here. Okay, and now that started the process of Judah and Ephraim being brought back together. Primarily that will happen in Babylon the Great. And that's what you see happen with all of these brothers waking up. Well, it's 43 and 19. You know it. It says, behold, I will do a new thing. Right now, it shall come forth. You shall not know it. No people.
Okay, this is a back of what they were saying. Let me do this. 10 verses is what I want. I'll start at 9. Now, why doeth thou cry aloud? Is there no king in thee? That's Hosea 3. Is thy counselor Paris? For pains have taken thee as a woman in travail. That's talking about Israel. And this goes hand in hand with Revelation chapter 12. It says, be in pain, meaning Israel, be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. And that's referring to the Israelites as compared to a beautiful woman in Jeremiah 6:2, I believe. But for now shalt thou go forth out of the city. What city? Our city. And thou shalt dwell in the field, that's Africa, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. They ain't talking about ancient Babylon, it's talking about this Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. This great deliverance is going to come out of Babylon. There Yahweh shall redeem by thee back thee from the hand of thine enemies. Now, who's your number one enemy? This is the fulfillment of Babylon. We're in Babylon as right now as I speak. So who is the number one enemy? Esau. That's why Psalms 83, the first enemy on the list is Esau, is the Edomites. I got to come back and read this whole chapter.
Right. For that worship, so that he has said the people showing that he is right, and that's what he's doing with his science. He's exalting himself. He's opposing the Most High openly.
In a so-called religious manner. Anytime you go to a church in America, American Christian church, it's always so-called white people portrayed as the Most High, the angels, and that came out of Europe. So that part where he exalt himself above all that is called God is talking about the Renaissance and Renaissance period. What did they have to do? There's a thing called Renaissance art. There's a Renaissance alphabet, a Renaissance language, Latin, Greek, but there's a Renaissance alphabet. And then the J came about during the time of the Renaissance alphabet. They added 4 more letters to the Greek, which was the Hebrew going into the Greek. Hebrew, 22 letters. Greek, 22 letters. I believe Latin, 22 letters. And the Renaissance writings, they added 4 more letters, which the J is numbered an extension of the I. So that's why you get the word Jesus. So any Christian that's calling on the name Jesus, the first thing you got to tell them, they say, was he actually called Jesus? Is that how you pronounce his name? Their stupid ass is going to say, yeah. And then you go into the history and you show them that there was no J prior to 1524. So now was Jesus called Jesus? And they might still say, yeah, he was Jesus' name. Jesus doesn't mean a damn thing. It's just 2-syllable word that doesn't mean, well, that's the English way of saying the Lord. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's just a 2-syllable sound with a Renaissance J at the beginning of it. See, when we deal with these Christians, you got to go, you got to take them in the deep water and drown them spiritually, of course, because they don't understand the history. They know the basic scriptures, John 3:16, and this scripture and that scripture, and Jesus, and a lot of them don't even know. You ask a dumbass Christian, how many disciples did the Lord have? They're gonna say 12, and then you show them that he had 84 disciples. He didn't have no 12 disciples. He had 84 disciples. The ones that remained was the 11. Judas Iscariot was placed out, but then you had 2 other disciples that were with the 70. It was 72. It was Matthias replaced Matthias replaced Judas Iscariot. Ask a Christian this: how many Jameses and how many Judes were there among the 12? They'll probably say 1 James and 1 Jude. No, it was 2 Jameses and 2 Judes. And what was the relationship between those 2 Jameses? When you tell them that there's 2, what was the relationship between the 2 Jameses to the to the 12 and to the Lord. They don't understand. They don't know that the Lord's biological, two of his biological brothers were actually a part of the 12. They don't know that. They don't know that. They're weak. They don't know that. They can't deal with us. That's why they got to have vocab in them, Desmond Ingram and certain other guys, Elder Mike. They got to have classes to show them how to deal with the Israelites. And when they come to deal with us, they still get their asses whipped. So come on.
Openly, they're telling you the God, sky God, that's old. We can now have gods, technology and clouds can be the gods. You can be a god if you go this way. You can be upgraded. It's the serpent all over again. Because when you go into the scriptures, the serpent was nothing but a magician. When you go into what a serpent means, it's Nahash, it's a diviner, it's an enchanter, one who works magic spells, and that's what this devil is doing in earth. Right. Right. That happened back then and it's happening now because Nahum was prophesying against Nineveh, which Nineveh is the capital of the Assyrian Empire, okay, which is basically Babylon, that region. And pretty much it was through that time that it fell. Because remember at the time of Jonah prophesied to fall, but it finally fell at the time of Nahum. Okay, now when you go into the history of what that brother just read, don't you know Nahum was crying out against rulers who cross-dressed and put on makeup? The ruler at that time, his name was Sardanapalus, and what he was known for was he was a ruler, but he put on women's clothing and was a trans vibe. So Nahum was cursing that very same behavior out, and here we are in the modern day Nineveh, and we have to witness the same thing. Remember he dressed up like a movie called Kitchen going into that serpent, one thing that they deal with that serpent creating like divination society. And you talk about Babylon, that goes back to one of the oldest societies in the world, called over well, with like they do the same thing today, the same magic they do, right?
Changing gears. I did a video on the new moon and the Sabbath and the new moon because we got it right. Okay, we here at Great Millstone got it right. So let's watch some of this video or most of it.
Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem B'cha Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is The Message to Bishop Nathaniel. This will be quick. Just want to, make a statement and hit a scripture or two and just leave it at that. Seeing as we're coming to the last final phase of this devil's kingdom, should be a lot of, especially the leadership out there, checking and double checking their doctrine, especially those that deny the MOTB and other flaws that they have in their doctrine. Seeing as we're coming into some real serious turbulent times, and scripture say that knowledge and wisdom should be the secret of their times and strength of salvation. My message to Bishop Nathaniel, keep the bishop's name out your mouth, is if I were you, I would go back and I would re-examine the scripture in Ecclesiastes 43, dealing with the new moon. And we're saying the new moon is a full moon, and it's not. You are in total error. You need to go back, other stuff too, but just in this segment.
Not just him, not just the IUIC, the ISCPK, and the rest of them. Not excluding Sakari, because Sakari breaks it down the same way we break it down.
We're just going to deal with the moon issue. You have, flawed doctrine that will teach that the full moon is the new moon, and you have a brain in your head. You're very studious, so I suggest you go back and you rehash this, go back over it. May the Lord to see it. This is Ecclesiastes 43:6. He made the moon also to serve season for a declaration of time. Again, because the moon is what means the beginning of time. This is in the evening and the morning of the first day of Genesis. So the day starts in the evening. It also says that the moon is the beginning of the month. So everything revolves around the moon. So it says that sign of the world, because it's built the sign, seasons, days, and years, as we read in Genesis, first chapter, roughly around the 14th verse. It says from the moon it's a sign of feast, because you have certain feasts that happen during the middle of the month. In the middle of the month,
Tabernacles, Passover, Feast of Tabernacles, and the Passover. When those high holy days are being celebrated, that's the new moon.
the moon at its fullest. That's the full moon. That's the middle of the month. This is around the time of the Passover, around the time of the Feast of Tabernacle. Moon is at its perfection because it's the middle of the month. This is a light that decreases in her perfection because in the middle of the month, when the moon is full, it starts to decrease in light. That's why you have your different moon phases. Different moon phases depending on what time of the month it is. It says the light that decreases in her perfection because from the full moon, which is the middle of the month, the light starts to decrease. So the month is called after the name. So the word month and the word moon are synonymous, one with the other. Month is called, you say the first month or the second month or whatever, you use the term for the word month. It represents the moon. It's named after the moon. Increasing wonderfully in her changing. Why? Because when the new moon comes in, which is what they call a dark moon, which is, the light of the moon is not as bright. That's the reset point. This is the beginning of the month. So when the month is called after a name, right, new moon, increasing wonderfully in her changing. Why? Because from the point of the new moon, you barely have any light, then it starts to increase. Start getting crescents in the first quarters. Then by the middle of the month, you have the full moon, and then the moon starts to decrease in perfection until it gets all the way down back to the new moon until we set. And it's very simple. You have to go over it again. Increasing wonderfully in her change and being an instrument of the armies above, shining in the firmament of heaven. Right. So the new moon is what they would call the moon is at its dimmest. It's not as bright. They call it the dark moon. The full moon, which is the middle of the moon, that's when the moon is fully lit. You see here. New moon, full moon. Beginning of the month, middle of the month. Right? Then when we go to 1 Samuel 20 and 24, it says, so David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. Now, when we look up this word new moon, the word there is chadash. It's the word chadash means new. But it's really, when you look at it here, it says renew, repair. Because the moon, when it comes in, it's repaired or it's renewed. It's the same moon, but it's just starting a new cycle. That's why it looks the way it does at the beginning of the month. Very dim, because it's beginning a new cycle. So when we go down here, there's the new moon, month, monthly, the fourth of the month, the lunar month. Now when we scroll down to the different scriptures where the word Chadash is, sometimes it's rendered new moon, sometimes it's rendered month, as in Genesis 7:11. The 600 year of Noah's life in the second month had the same word Chadash, which means new moon or means renewed. So each month that comes in is a new moon, a Chadash, the beginning of the month. The 17th day of the month, again, same word. And then you go through here, you have the word month, and you also have the word new moon, which all go back to the word Chadash, which means renewed or repay. And that's where you get the term new moon from. Because as we read in Ecclesiasticus 43, the month is called after the name. And even when you go online and you check the etymology of the word month, it goes back to the word moon. Right? Now let's go back. It says, so David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. And the king sat upon a seat as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side. David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought something had befallen him. He is not clean, surely he is not clean. It came to pass on the morrow, which is what? The day after the new moon, which was the second day of the month. So it's letting you know that the new moon is the first day of the month, the beginning of the month. The full moon is in the middle of the month. So how can the full moon be the new moon when the full moon comes in the middle of the month? And the new moon comes in at the beginning. You know, and this proves it because the second day of the month is the day after the new moon. It doesn't matter what month it is.
That's how you determine when the Sabbath comes in. That's how you determine when the Sabbath comes in. When you go to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, it speaks about the new moon. You read that whole chapter, it goes into the majority of the high holy days. There were more to come, but up until that point, when they were in the wilderness, the Most High gave them those high holy days, and the first one was the Sabbath, and everything else was on the new moon, the 9th day on the new moon, the 10th day on the new moon, the 14th day at evening on the new moon, the such and such and so and so. So, so if you're gonna follow high holy days based upon the new moon, the Sabbath is the same thing. The Sabbath is also based upon the new moon. It's not Friday sundown and Saturday sundown. See, the commandment keepers, they went off because they were following the small hats.
David's place was empty, and Saul said unto Jonathan his son, wherefore comest not the son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today? You know, you can read the rest of the history. I just want to make the point of the word new moon and the word month being synonymous, even within the Hebrew, word for both, which is Dutch. Now, we go back here, you also have Psalm 81, so this is stumbling block. Because when you read this, it says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on some feast days. And when you read it and you look this up, in the time appointed, you look at the word time appointed, the word is kasa or kasa'a, which means full moon. So it sounds like it's saying that the new moon is the full moon, but it's not. When you check out other translations, right?
Yeah, good you went through that because I was gonna. That good that you went through that.
It went from at new moon and again at full moon. Because the new moon was a festive day, was a Sabbath, but it was a festive day. You know, it was celebrated by blowing the trumpets. And then in the middle of the month, on the full moon, during the time of feasts, we would also blow the trumpet. So we would blow it at the beginning of the month and in the middle of the month. Remember, you had the Issacharites that would actually watch phases of the moon to let us know when the new moon was coming in.
They were watching time. They had the watches, and 2,000 years ago, really before that. But when the Lord was on the cross, Peter, when the man said he was filled with wine, he was drunk, and he said, I'm paraphrasing, how can I be drunk being that it is the ninth hour of the day? The ninth hour of the day. No, I'm sorry. What time of day was it? I believe it was the third hour of the day. Yeah, I believe it was the third hour of the day. I'm not going to go to it. Somebody can put it in there. He said, being that it's the third hour of the day, which means 9 o'clock, because the first hour of the day was so-called around 6 in the morning. So they would have counters. They would have guys that would look up and they would know that the new moon was coming in, and they would officially announce the new moon is tonight, and people would, that would be a Sabbath. So you would prepare your meal before the sun went down on the new moon. And then when the new moon, when you experience the new moon, that's when you were eating. You ain't cooking nothing. All right. The same thing with the Sabbath. Before the sun went down on the first Sabbath coming in, the second Sabbath coming in, you had to time it where you prepared the meal. So when the sun started to go down, the meal was already cooked, and you can turn the fire off. So when you jump and say keep the law, and you're not keeping the law, that's a double standard right there. You're not really researching, and you really can't go deep unless you have to understand Hebrew. You don't have to speak it fluently, but in order to fully understand these scriptures, one way is to go into the Hebrew, if it's in the Old Testament, or the Greek, which is the New Testament. And that's what these Edomites do in these seminary schools. They'll put books together. I always go to the commentary. When you go to most of them commentaries, they'll actually say, well, this word comes from the Hebrew word meaning this, and this is from the Greek word meaning that. And then they'll even give you precepts.
When the high holy days were, so on and so forth. Now, when we go back here, what I did was I typed the new moon and give you all the scriptures in the Bible.
Because look, if Nate said, well, we don't really got to go to the Hebrew, we don't got to make a doctrine from the Paleo Hebrew. Well, if that's the case, then you guys would have to be celebrating Easter. Because when you go to Acts, the book of Acts, was at 12:4, it says intending that after Easter. So that's in the scriptures. Now you can't say, oh, we know it's talking about the Passover. No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. Well, then you got in the margin of the Bible, yeah, but where did it come from? So you are forced to go extra biblical, meaning outside the Bible. What did they really mean? Well, the actual translation, if you go to the blue letter, it'll show you that. If you actually go to the Greek, the word there is Pasak, which is the Greek way of saying the Hebrew word. It's Pascha, which is the Hebrew word Pasak, which is the Greek way of saying the Hebrew word for Passover. Pasak. They say Pascha. So when you say the new moon is a full moon, any scholar will laugh you to scorn. And it's being proven to you. Let's go on.
Where the new moon comes in. Right? And this right here, Amos 8 and 5, tells us that the new moon is the Sabbath. And 6:5 saying, when will the moon be born? So, yeah, because you couldn't smell the Sabbath. And the Sabbath. So the new moon is a Sabbath. We may set forth week, making the week small and the shepherd great, and falsify. And the other point I wanted to make was here in Colossians 2:16 says, let no man therefore judge in meat or in drink, or a respective and holy day, or of the new moon, or the Sabbath day. So now, in the book of Colossians 2:16, this is the only time in the New Testament as the, and even the Greek word neomania, which is a bunch of different words put together. Right? It just says new moon, the Jewish festival of the new moon. Okay, and this is the only time it appears in the New Testament. Now, when you look at the root words, you have the word neos, which is what? New. New. Recently born, right? Or it could be refreshed, right? Neos is new. It's part of the one of the root words. Then you have the word B'nai, right? Main, which is what? Month, the time of the new moon. So even here in the Greek, it breaks it down. It breaks it down in the Hebrew, it breaks it down in the Greek. When you go to the etymology of the word month, it tells you it comes from the word moon. We found out that the moon is the first day of the month, which is again the whole cycle of the counting for everything. So it's impossible for the new moon to be the full moon, and the full moon comes in the middle of the month. Because when we go to what is that? Give me one second. Right, Leviticus 23. Because we read in 1 Samuel 20 that the new moon, the next day after the new moon, was what? The second day of the month, correct? So how could the full moon be the new moon if after the new moon was the second day of the month? And here when we read in Leviticus 23 and 4, it says, these are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations which you shall proclaim in their season. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day. So how could the new moon be the full moon if the new moon is the first day of the month and then you had the second day of the month? How could it jump from the new moon all the way to the 14th day of evening? See? So Bishop Nathaniel, you need to go back and rethink your whole strategy. You need to go back and read over those scriptures.
What he needs to do is give that bag back.
No, you're a very studious individual. You should be able to pick it up. Go back over and pray to the Lord.
Problem that he has too is his leadership. The leadership is not going to check him. They look at him as God. They're not going to check him. He has the last word. I don't have the last word. If I say something more off, Apostle Gabar, Apostle Ryan Lob, and some of the elders, they'll say, wait a minute, oh, you're going off on that one. And we're going to have to sit down and go through that. And I don't believe they do that. Because, a month before him bringing out that thing about the new moon is a full moon, a month before that, 2 months before that, 12 months before that, 2 years before that, they were following the moon, the new moon as being the moon being invisible in the sky. All of a sudden, he jumps up one day, and I remember that because we were the first ones to jump on them about teaching it, like we always do. The mother camps, they don't do nothing. They don't never look. If you think we're going off, you get on us. All you camps. If Sakari think we're going off, look to her. You're going off on this. Like recently, uh, um, Alazar, priest Alazar, he did a thing, bucking up against the grape doctrine, and he said, I forget exactly what he said, but and I came back and I said, well, you don't want to delve into this. You better, just stay on the side because you're gonna lose. If we're going off, because none of you guys have come up and showed us we were going off on the grape doctrine. Not that we go around graping anybody. You just got all emotional. Hey, you got emotional with the Cornelius thing. You got emotional when I said, let's cast a lot. And you said, that's wicked to her. Where's the precept for that? And none of them niggas that was in the house of David jumped up. That's why all the motherfuckers are back in the world. And Ben getting ready to, drop dead. Because Ben and Barack, none of them guys were quiet as church mouse. Remember, all them guys that was there, the mass majority of them just went right back into the world. All the guys that followed you, Yash and them, that was y'all worked as a leadership. Where they ain't on the highways and the byways. They ain't pushing this word. They didn't endure to the end. Now Yash, I know he knows that he's an Israelite, and he's told me that I ran into him a couple of years ago. He told me that he has a website and all that. So he still teaches it, but he's not on the highways and the byways. He's not. The scriptures say, what's the term? Make full proof of that ministry. How did this ministry grow? Through the web, through the YouTube. Okay. So the problem with you, Bishop Nate, is ain't nobody challenging you. Whatever you say, that's the word of God. That's why I call it the gospel according to Bishop Nathaniel.
Because it doesn't make any sense you're teaching that the new moon is the full moon. That's nonsense. Because if that was the case, how come the new moon in 1 Samuel 20?
Hold on, we got this clown, Paul Kersey, Mr. Scholar himself. You mean to tell me you see what this guy sees? You ain't bucking up against what he's saying? Because we clearly prove to you, the scriptures say, prove all things and hold fast to that which is good. We proved it. We're not just saying, oh, you're going off. Well, explain. I can't explain it, but I know deep in my heart you're going off. No, we explained it in the scriptures. The great thing, we explained it in the scriptures. You can't get this knowledge if you're caught up in your emotions. That's something that a woman's energy is based upon her emotion, man. All right?
It says that the new moon came in, and then the next day was the second day. But here we're reading
so that would mean what he just quoted. That would mean that there's two calendars, that Israel had two calendars. So you went to 7-Eleven to get one calendar, and then you went to the chariot shop to get the other calendar. You had two calendars. No, you didn't have no two calendars. You had one calendar. That calendar was right up in the sky.
Passover, which comes in the middle of the month, it comes in on the 14th day of the first month. So how could that be? If the new moon is the full moon, how could that be? Because it says here in Psalm 81 that this is the time appointed, meaning on the full moon, the day of our feasts, which is the middle of the month. So that's pretty much, what I wanted to say. Salaki, I wanted to, go live earlier, but I wasn't able to. So Lord's will, you brothers and sisters, the Spirit allows, I'll come back to you.
So let me do this real quick. Let me do this right quick. Let me come back over here. Okay, let me come back over here. I'm sorry. I just noticed this. Many historical massacres on Jake and the ones going on today. And this is put up by Holy Bible Defenders. And this is a history of, see, I like to thank the ADL for showing their head so that we can, that makes us dig. That makes us dig, man. We know, look, you gotta, if you haven't watched this video, I'm gonna watch this video for sure. I'm gonna watch this video for sure. Let me go over here. Let me come over here. Then I'm gonna close it. Okay, this is on my Odyssey page. And by the way, it's at Tahar Bun Lawyer. You got to watch this video. The birth of the ADL. The birth of the AD. I'm not cursing them out like that. I'm just giving you information based upon documentaries of other videos about this, the whole birth of the ADL. You got to watch this. This is a must-see video. This one, I put it up, I believe it was on a Thursday. As a matter of fact, it was on a Thursday. It was on the 1st of December. And I put it up on the regular YouTube. And then about 2 hours later, I was on an errand. And I was in my car and I went on my smartphone and I put the video in to watch it. And I couldn't find it. You know, what the hell is going on? Then I called Apostle Ram Lab. I said, put this video and see if it comes up. He said, it doesn't come up. So I already said they took it down. And I said in the video that they're going to take this down. They're going to take it down. I didn't curse nobody out. I didn't say use any strong language. I just brought out some facts. I went to Google. The facts of the reason why they took it down, because I went to Google and I put in certain key words and I read and I simply read. I didn't add my own 2 cents to it. So when I got home, they said, we're taking it down, violation, community guidelines. And I said, what? And then they asked me if I wanted to appeal. I said, I ain't appealing it, man, because you ain't going to accept it anyway. Because I spoke about a certain people that if you say something about them, they're gonna come down. That showed you who runs this shit. Who runs this motherfucker right here. So watch this one. The birth of ADL. And when you go to this and you go on YouTube, you're gonna put in a key individual who's gonna be mentioned in this video, and do some research on them, and you'll get the full understanding of why the ADL comes down so hard on people. And watch this one too. Most of the videos on this page is mostly dealing with the Charagma anyway. This is a good one. This is an excellent one. Biggest reset in history. New Chinese order begins. And this guy, he's a guest on this guy's show. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom. On to the next one.